Kohala, Yahawah, Ba'ashim, Yahushai, Barakatash, Shalom. It's your brother Obadiah Yukanan. And today, we want to talk about a subject that is probably very extreme and volatile right now in what's going on in our time period. And of course, when we talk about the world, we don't only talk about the world upon which involves our personal space in terms of our lifestyles, but we talk about the world in two different formats. We talk about the cosmos and oikoumene. Now, some of us know the difference between the two terms. I know that terminology, translation, transliterations of various degrees and varying degrees are very suspect in some ways. But the Most High, Yahawah, has given us a multitude of different avenues of communication to try to transpose an understanding forward. So we have to try to break down in terms of an explanation or a definition with an explanation of these particular platforms upon which we talk about when we say world, of a environment upon which you inhabit and have your personification of your living lifestyle involved in that area. And that, of course, could bring into consideration in conjunction your geographical location, your economical position, and your social and spiritual involvement and participation. And see, the way the Most High shows some of his MO, his method of operation, is in such where he touches both areas and all areas. And sometimes he touches them simultaneously at the same time, and sometimes he touches them individually upon each area. And so today we want to talk about, my subject matter today is Yahawah is pushing the whole world of Gog and MaGog to his prophetic end. We'll say it again, Yahawah, or as they ignorantly call our Father God, is pushing the whole world of Gog and MaGog to his, Yahawah, our Father, Heavenly Father's prophetic end. And in that happening, there's a lot of what we call variant levels of consternation that are happening right now in this particular time period. As I said, of course, we can expound on wars and rumors of wars that Yahushua, who they ignorantly call Jesus, spoke about all through the book of Matthew 21, 24, and Mark 13, in terms of when he spoke to the apostles about what things are going to happen. Of course, there's a multitude of revelations that go through the Old Testament, as they call it the Old Testament. It's just all one testament. They just don't understand that part of it. Maybe some do. And in terms of what is being expressed about the things that are happening and starting to happen, what I don't think a lot of us are getting a grasp on is the fact that the wars and rumors of wars, as the Most High said through Yahushua, is the beginning of sorrows and end. It isn't the end yet, but it is very much at the door, and the door is cracking open. And of course, what's happening is we're seeing the results of it. There is a preliminary event of the Gog and MaGog position that encompasses all of Psalms 83. We're going to touch on a lot of these scriptures. I'm just doing a little, just a little commentary before we get to that point. Also, there is a Gog and a MaGog position in Ezekiel chapter 39 that goes into the future events of what is going to happen and lead on up to the end of the prophetic portions of it. That, of course, we will address that if we have time to do that as well. What I think that a lot of people get mixed up with and messed up with is they believe that Gog and MaGog has everything to do with just two parties or three parties in terms of the actual delineation of the prophetic process happening. They believe that at some point that Gog and MaGog has to deal with Russia and the U.S. as well as incorporating other entities, maybe China in the mix there. But in essence, what it is talking about, if you really look at the whole prophetic message from a biblical standpoint in terms of who this is all about, which is the restoration and the recompense of a chosen lineage of people that the Most High calls his seed, Israel. And of course, he's bringing the two sticks back together, which is the southern kingdom and the northern kingdom. And as you see them coming together, you are also seeing a multitude of new, we would call it new information that's being revealed. But at the same time, I wouldn't say it's new. I'm just saying it's been hidden. There's a lot of things that are hidden. There's a lot of books and knowledge that are still out there that the Most High YAHAWAH is revealing in the frame and portions that he chooses to do it on his time frame. I said earlier in the message that we're no longer on our own time clock or our own time measurement system. I likened it to the hourglass sand time mechanism that has been used in past time, where the sands of time, which are the sands of the sea, which are the sands in representation of children of Israel, because this is what it's all about. It's about the Most High's children and his prophetic process towards redemption for them as he decides. When that hourglass is turned over, those sands are running down into the bottom portion of the bowl of that particular hourglass configuration. And once that happens and completes, what levels of prophetic time periods, I do not know. I'm not privy to it. I have not been given that particular answer from YAHAWAH through Yahushua and Ruach HaKodesh, what happens at that point. I can speculate that when those sands run out, that could be a representation. I said it could be a representation of the final individuals who have been touched by the Most High and awakened to follow and come back to him and his ordinances in reference to their road and method to salvation. So I use that analogy to speak to that part of it. The troubling and problematic side of the situation that brings to light is a few things that I like to shalaki. I like to shalaki. Let me this is my tea, my sour sop, ginger tea. That's good. I don't like when it gets too warm. I like it nice and hot. It's better. Shalaki, back to what I was saying. The troubling and problematic parts of the acceptance and the non-acceptance and the method of presentation. Now, I cannot, nor will I ever even try to combat or come against the way and the offering and the messages that are being given by the Yakim while they're out here on the highways and byways, because they're instructed to do that. Now, honestly, are all of them instructed to do it? Well, you can test the fruit, like YAHAWAH said, in terms of what is being given to you. If you go to a orange tree and you get an apple, or you go to an apple tree and you get a orange or a pear or something different, then there's a problem, because there may be an ability to graft in a branch that may produce a fruit. But in most cases, if it's grafted into a particular tree, then it will produce a hybrid of that particular fruit. So I don't think we'll ever get an apple orange. We may get an apple pear, because the similarity in terms of the composition of the makeup may be possible, but I don't see a citrus fruit and a fruit of a type of carb of an apple or something, or a pear, being mixed with a citrus fruit in that manner. Not to digress on the horticulture of fruit, but what my analogy is in terms of the messages that are being brought forth to our people, which is basically and exclusively given to the chosen people, who some of them that we look alike, we look similar in terms of our makeup and complexion. None of us are this color black. Okay, that's a very destructive and disproportionate and distractive narrative that has been put upon us in a byword capacity among other bywords that they use, and when using it, what it does is it decreases the ability and the power of the children who are supposedly the chosen and the ones that are awake or awakening. It decreases their ability and their power to operate with the confines and the blessings and grace of the Most High YAHAWAH. When you use the byword terminologies to reflect upon who you are as a people, or even to represent a communication between who you are as a people. And unfortunately, see, this is part of what I'm speaking to, about the fact that this war, this Gog MaGog war, is giving us a confusion, a Babylonish Gog of Magog soup of distraction and distortion, and just basically subliminally seducing us and pushing us in a direction that keeps us from getting closer to the Most High YAHAWAH. And in turn, when you can get close to him, or if you can get close to the Father, then you are very confused about what your role is, what you should be doing, what time it is, what you're supposed to not be doing, because the world is formally the composition of all of Gog and MaGog. And we're going to go into some scripture to actually speak to that as well. I'm not just speaking this off the top of my head. This all can be very much backed up through scripture. And so what we have is the camps that are giving a very repetitive message because of two things. One is they don't know how many new people they're reaching in reference to getting this message out. So when they're out on the highways and byways, they may come across individuals that may not be privy to specific details about their nationality and specific details about who is supposed to receive what the Bible says, not what man says, but what the Most High says specifically in his word, his ordinances, his statutes, and his judgments about who he sent salvation for and who will acquire salvation under the guidelines of what he presented. The out of context statement is to me is null and void when you're just reading the word. If you're just reading the Bible to a person, you're not taking something out of context by just reading exactly what you see. The way that the mind works is if you see something in it or hear something in it that doesn't reflect on something that you're comfortable with, then you automatically refer to the word or the definition out of context because you don't agree if it doesn't put you in a position of value or importance in reference to where you think you should go or what path you should be on. So you automatically go to the out of context understanding, even if they're just reading it. And most times it depends on who is reading it, because who's reading it has a lot to do with who receives it and perceives it as being out of context. And that's really, that's the troubling and problematic side of the situation in terms of offering truth. There could be a multitude of different individuals who could speak something that is absolutely true. But the listeners of this information, and it really sometimes doesn't depend on who the listener is, except for maybe someone who may be such a child that they can't comprehend what the words mean in terms of their variance. But if a listener is hearing a specific thing being read directly the way it is, they focus on who it is that's reading it, not the content of what's being said. So they automatically go out of context, not dealing with the content of the information. So therefore, the prejudicial judgment and the prejudicial perception of that information is always scrutinized by the visual perception of the individual given the information and the receptive situation of the individual seeing and hearing what is being said. Now, of course, it all has an overlapping involvement and an overlapping influence that the Most High puts on it from the Ruach HaKodesh and the Holy Spirit in reference to who is supposed to receive information and who is supposed to stay asleep. That is completely the Most High Yahawah's prerogative. He calls all the shots. He may empower other entities that he's created to perform specific activities and tasks, but he still calls all the shots and handles and directs all the situation completely. Nothing goes through without his approval. Let's just make sure we don't get that twisted. I'll say it again. Nothing goes through anywhere on any portion of his creation without his approval. Make sure we know that. Log it, tag it, test it, keep it, research it. You'll see I'm telling you the truth on that. So we have this situation where the problematic problem of being in this Gog MaGog soup of world deception from Psalms 83, when the entire world has basically taken what the Most High has put forth for his children who mishandled it, misdirected it, and basically disrespected it. And since we did that as a people and a nation, then now we're in this proverbial Gog and MaGog soup from Psalms 83, where the whole world has bought into, let's deceive the people of the book that were chosen. And so now that the people of the book that were chosen have been deceived and are being deceived up until a certain point where the Most High says he's going to lift off the curses and put it on those who have been deceiving us. And then we can come out and get to where we need to be, that the Most High presents us. The thing is, the ones of the people of the world who performed this process through Psalms 83, they know exactly what they're doing. They know who they're doing it to. And they know that the time for that to come to fruition and they can't do anymore is also coming very fast. So they're grappling and they're scrapping, and believe me, they are not going to go away without a fight. And that's just where a lot of people confuse the Gog MaGog situation and make it just specific to an actual war. But if you look at it this way, how can it actually be a war? I mean, let's take this for a minute. Who can fight against the creator of everything that will ever exist, that has ever existed, and that is continuously existing? Who could fight against a creator that created everything that you could ever use to fight with? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to even attempt to do that. But there are individuals who have the arrogance and they have the audacity and the gall to even try to think that they could do that. That old analogy that they say, your arms are too short to box with God. Well, it ain't even a boxing match. See, that's what I'm saying. This is not even a war. If the Most High wanted to really invoke a minuscule amount of his power, he could think every entity that he's created that he felt needed to be immediately eliminated and that was wicked, even if he created them for that purpose, if he wanted to just stop it, he could think all of that out of existence. Now, when I say think, I can only talk from a perspective of what metabolism the Most High has given me in terms of trying to understand a portion of what he offers to us from his mindset. And it's a very, very small portion, believe me. We are close to nowhere near what the Most High's abilities and capabilities are. We have a minuscule amount. But when I say think something out of existence, I mean that the Most High knows the beginning and end of everything, and he knows the complete makeup, and he has created the makeup of everything that has any beginning and any end. And so he could easily dispatch any amount of whatever. And because it all belongs to him, he doesn't have to answer to anyone in reference to why and what he does it for. So we have my Akim brethren, we have my religious practitioner family and brethren that are out here, and we have those who are standalone, independent of any acceptance of YAHAWAH, God, or whatever they choose to call him or not, in their derivatives of understanding. And they're all out here, and they're all participating in what YAHAWAH decides to be his final prophetic position on this particular planet he created. We don't know how many more he's got out there and what's happening on those. We just don't know. And so all the signs that he wants to give, no one can stop him. All the aspects of correction, judgment, whether judgment is to the good or to your bad, is all set in motion, and it's not going to be changed based on what type of rhetoric, whether it is misguided or whether it is on point, that's being offered to the creation that the Most High has created. So all the lineages of all the cultures of the world that are being influenced by YAHAWAH's prophetic position are going to do exactly what the Most High has planned and made them to do. That includes everyone, me, you, those who are awake, those who are not awake. This is an absolutely wonderful time and a blessed grace and just mercy and honor to be operating in this time period. All of the prophets that were before us wanted to be here right now during the time when they said they were speaking of this. And fortunately, some of them are regenerated here to do that, which is such a wonderful thing. So, I just, when I think about it, it just takes me to Barakatah Yahawah, Barakatah Yahweh Shai, Barakatah Yahweh, call Lord Yahweh, Shai, just got to pray and just praise the Father for the ability to even be functioning right now at this point in time. So what I was saying, that particular level of, I guess I would call it, I can't call it anything. The Most High would call it the pushing of the world of Gog and MaGog to his prophetic end, and the Magogial soup that is created by these nations. We need to go ahead and just address it. Let's get into some scripture. In Yahweh Shai's precious name, let's do that. Okay. All right, so we're going to start on Ezekiel chapter 38 and 38. We want to read. Let's start at 7. Be thou prepared, and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them. After many days thou shalt be visited. In the latter years thou shalt come into the land that is brought back from the sword, and is gathered out of many people against the mountains of Israel, which have been always waste, but it is brought forth out of the nation, and they shall dwell safely in all of them. Now this takes us to Joel chapter 3. So go with me to Joel chapter 3. And when we get to 3, we're going to read, I want to go to, we'll start at, let's see, 3 and, let's go to 9 and 11. Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war, wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, and let them come up. All right? And so that is letting you know that in this Gog MaGog situation, you have what is happening is all of these particular nations around the world, and when I'm talking oinkameni, the earth, they've been getting portions of what and who we are, of our culture, of our ways, of the way Most Howard gave us the ways and the things and what we're supposed to do. And they've divvied them up among the world. And they've all been using those particular methods of living and grace and expectation towards development in their countries, as far as their economics are concerned, as far as their ability to operate with each other and with other nations. They all divvied up our goods, so to speak, because Yahweh definitely speaks about that in terms of them taking his goodly resources roughly paraphrase. Okay, so in Joel chapter 3, we're also going to go to verse 1. We're going to finish here. Okay. 8, after many days thou shalt be visited. In the latter years thou shalt come into the land that is brought back from the sword. So the Most High is going to bring us back. He's going to gather us. He's in the process of establishing that right now. You can see that all of the nations around the world are going at each other in many different ways. But they're avoiding addressing what the real issue is in reference to why they're doing it. They're saying it's resources. They're saying it's diplomacy or democratic, or what they call liberty in terms of the way of freedom. But their freedoms are falsehoods, because what is one man's measure or understanding of freedom is another man's measure and understanding of persecution. They don't know how to find the way of peace, because they're not concerned about the way of peace being shared with someone who doesn't share their thought process or their living expectation. So therefore, this is what you have. And so now we have thou shalt come into the land that is brought from the sword, and is gathered out of many people against mountains. So as he said, proclaim ye among the Gentiles, prepare for war. So clearly that's what's happening. They're going after each other in this proverbial soup, now trying to blame each other, saying, well, you told us to go ahead and do this to the Israelites, to the Hebrew Israelites. You told us that they would never get a chance to read this or understand this book, the book that was their book, but we took it, we changed it, we've done all kinds of things to it. We've only been leaking out certain information that they could understand, so we're not giving them everything. So how is it that they have the ability to know this truth now? Now they're all waking up, and what are we going to do? Because we're going to lose. They're like we're going to lose everything now that they're waking up. So they're frantic at this point, and this is what this proverbial soup is starting to boil over, and they can't handle it. Okay, let's go to 9. All right, but let me finish here on 8. I didn't finish. I'm sorry, Shalaki. And come to the land that is brought back from the sword, and is gathered out of many people against the mountains of Israel, which have always always waste, but it is brought forth out of the nations, and they shall dwell safely, all of them. All right, so let's go to Joel chapter 3 again, and read at the top. For behold, in those days and in that time, when I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem, and I will also gather all nations, and will bring them down into the valley of the Jehoshaphat, and will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land. So this is basically the Father's telling you, when he says plead with them, he's not asking permission. He's not saying do right by my people or do right by him. What he's saying at this point is he's giving you a chance to give him an answer, but he knows that the answer you're going to give him is going to be unsatisfactory. So the plead turns into a bleed. So he's going to bleed those nations. He's not going to just plead to those nations. They have to pay. See, it's the thing about this world is they believe that at this point they could do everything that they want to do to anything and everyone in the entire planet, and that nobody, that they don't have to pay for anything that has been done. They believe that their manifest destiny was something that they were supposed to do based on their own thoughts and processes and value judgments. their manifest destiny was completely under the control of Yahawah by Shem Yahushai. It was not under their own control. And because it wasn't under their own control, they don't understand that there's a recompense that has to be paid. So he's taking them down to the valley of Yehoshaphat, and he's going to allow them to, they're going to have to give they're going to have to give a response. They're going to have to answer to why they took things too far. That's part of a lot of what this is about. They went too far. That speaks miles of that in about the 70 shepherds, and we'll touch on that at another time. Okay, let's finish reading 10. Thus saith the Lord Yahawah, our power, it shall also come to pass that at the same time shall things come into thy mind, and thou shalt think an evil thought. Okay, all right. Where is that evil thought? Okay, let's go with Psalms 83, 3 and 4. So we can hear that evil thought that they thought. Okay, Psalms 83. We're gonna check out that evil thought. Okay, 3 and 4. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may no more be in remembrance. See, so you can see where in right here in Ezekiel chapter 38, in terms of when we speak to the fact that they say, thus saith Yahawah power, it shall also come to pass that at that same time shall things come into thy mind, and thou shalt think an evil thought. And that's that evil thought. All right, 11. And thou shalt say, I will go up to the land of unwalled villages. I will go to them that are at rest, that dwell safely, all of them dwelling without walls, and having neither bars nor gates. Now, of course, that speaks to Revelation chapter 14, verse 8, and Revelation 16, 16. So let's go to Revelation. It's always good to back it up, right? Got to back it up. All right. First, we're going to go to 14 and 8, and we're going to read that. And there followed another angel saying, Babylon is fallen, that great city, because she made all the nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. So see, this is that tumult. This is that coming together, that confederacy of those those nations in Psalms 83. Let's go 16:16 now. Okay, and he gathered them together into a place called, in the Hebrew tongue, Armageddon. See, and see. So when he's getting them down to the valley of Jehoshaphat, in that area of Megiddo called Armageddon, and that's where he's going to deal with them because of what they have done. Okay, all right. Let's go to let's finish reading Ezekiel 38, and now we're gonna go to 12. To take okay, now here's the part that's real important here. I will go to them that are at rest, that dwell safely, all of them, dwelling without walls, and dwelling safely, all of them, and having neither bars or gates. So as you can see, this goes all through those areas of Revelation. Revelation 11:11. Okay. And after 3 days and a half, the spirit of life from Yahawah entered into them, and they stood upon their feet, and a great fear fell upon them which saw them. And they heard a great voice from heaven saying unto them, Come up hither. And they ascended up to heaven in the cloud, and their enemies beheld them. And see, they're going to behold us and watch us be delivered to the land that the Most High has promised to our forefathers. And it's going to be a spectacular event when they do see it. It's going to be something that they are not ready for at all in any capacity. And when it does reach that pinnacle point, they will already know who we are. And they know now. They just are in such denial, and they're fighting against trying to keep a hold of something that they've gotten in a very illicit and illegal fashion. And because they've gotten our land and gotten our people and gotten all our resources the way they have, they do not want to let it go. And even when you bring it to their attention and they come to the point of realization that it is true that this is what they've done, they dismiss it. They find ways to ignore it in their mind because they know that they just would go more insane if they don't, if they realize and accept what they've done. And so they're going to fight to try to hold on to what they've stolen. You know, you see movies and different depictions of people who go and they take from people things that don't belong to them, and then once they're tracked down and caught, a lot of times they fight to try to keep what they've taken. They don't just relinquish it and let it go right at that point. They will go ahead and they will fight you over something that they have stolen. And this is what we see going on with this proverbial Gog and MaGog soup. Okay, let's go ahead and finish down here and get to it. Okay, all right. He says here, to take a spoil, as I was said, and to take a prey, to turn thine hand upon the desolate places that are now inhabited, and upon the people that are gathered out of the nations, which have gotten cattle and goods and dwell in the midst of the land. Sheba and Dedan and the merchants of Tarshish, with all the young lions thereof, shall say unto thee, art thou come to take a spoil? See, he's asking, or is this what's happening? Are we coming to take a spoil? This brings me to, of course, Amos chapter 9, 14 and 15. Okay, let me see. Are we right there? Should we be right there? Amos 9, 14 and 15. Okay, Shalaki. Okay, here it is, a good part of it. And I will bring again the captivity of my people of Israel, and they shall build the waste cities and inhabit them, and they shall plant vineyards and drink the wine thereof, and they shall also make gardens and eat the fruit of it. And I will plant them upon their land, and they shall no more be pulled up out of their land, which I have given them, saith YAHAWAH. See, so as you can see, the Father's going to put us in the land, and he's going to keep us safe there. Because he's gathering us out of the nations who have taken from us, just taken from us everything. Okay, taking the spoil, it says here, and thou gather thy company to take a prey, to carry away silver and gold, to take away cattle and good, to take a great spoil. Therefore, Son of man, prophesy and say unto Gog, thus saith the Lord YAHAWAH, in the day that when my people of Israel dwelleth safely, shalt thou not know it? And said, and thou shalt come from thy place out of the north parts, thou and many people with thee, all of them riding upon horses, and great company, and a mighty army. And thou shalt come up against my people of Israel as a cloud to cover the land, and it shall be in the latter days, and I will bring thee against my land, and that the heathen may know me, when I shall be sanctified in the O Gog before thine eyes. That's, going to happen over here where we are. Thus saith the Lord YAHAWAH, art thou he of whom I have spoken in old time by my servant the prophets of Israel, which prophesied in those days many years that I would bring thee against them? Okay, now hold on. And it shall come to pass at the same time, when Gog shall come against the land of Israel, saith the Lord YAHAWAH, that my fury shall come up in my face. And this is Psalm 78:65. So let's go to Psalms 78:65. Okay. Psalm 78:65. 78:65. Okay. That was 70. Yeah, 78:65. Then the Lord awakened as one out of sleep, and like a mighty man that shouteth by reason of wine. And he smote his enemies in the hind parts. He put them to a perpetual reproach. See? Okay. All right. Now let's finish reading that here. 19. For in my jealousy and in the fire of my wrath, I have spoken. Surely in that day there shall be a great shaking in the land of Israel, so that the fishes of the sea and the fowls of the heaven and the beasts of the field and all creeping things that creep upon the earth and all the men that are upon the face of the earth shall shake at my presence. And the nations and the mountains shall be thrown down, and the steep places shall fall, and every wall shall fall to the ground. 21. And I will call for a sword against him throughout all my mountains, saith the YAHAWAH. Every man's sword shall be against his brother. That's Psalm 75:8. Okay, let's go there. Psalm 75, verse 8. For in the land of YAHAWAH, the Lord, there is a cup, and the wine is red, and it is full of the mixture, and he poureth out of the same, but the dregs thereof, all the wicked of the earth shall wring them out and drink them. But I will declare forever, I will sing praises to the God to YAHAWAH of Jacob. All the horns of the wicked also all will I cut off, but the horns of the righteous shall be exalted. So that was, that's why I had to go to Psalm 75:8 for that. Now I'm going to finish here, and I will plead against him with pestilence and with blood, and I will rain upon him and upon his bands, and upon the many people that are with him, an overflowing rain and a great hailstones of fire and brimstone. Okay, that would be Psalms 11, 5-7. Let's go to Psalms 11. Let's go there. 9, 10, 11. Let's see, 5-7. All right. For the oppression of the poor, for the sign of the needy, now will I arise, saith YAHAWAH. I will set him in safety from him that puffeth at him. The words of YAHAWAH are pure words, as silver tried in the furnace of earth, purified 7 times. Thou shalt keep them, O YAHAWAH. Thou shalt preserve them from this generation forever. Okay? All right, 23. Thus will I magnify myself and sanctify myself, and I will be known in the eyes of many nations, and they shall know that I am YAHAWAH, the Lord. Okay? So you can see right there, we're building towards the future of this now. Now, this is what is coming in the future. Therefore, thou son, this is chapter 39, therefore thou son of man prophesy against God, and say, thus saith the Lord YAHAWAH, behold, I am against thee, O God, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, and I will turn thee back and leave but the sixth part of thee, and will cause thee to come up from the north parts, and will bring thee upon the mountains of Israel. See, this is a proverbial soup that's boiling over now at this point, with the way the Most High is bringing him to this fruition. He says, and I will smite thy bow, thy bow out of thy left hand, and will cause thine arrows to fall out of thy right hand. Thou shalt fall upon the mountains of Israel, thou and all thy bands, and the people that is with thee. I will give thee unto the ravenous birds in every sort, and to the beasts of the field to be devoured. Thou shalt fall upon the open field, for I have spoken it, saith YAHAWAH power, YAHAWAH power, our Lord. See, this is talking about, they took our land, first of all, and now it's going to be given back to us. And this is showing that the Father's going to take recompense against them in that manner to have that done. Okay? And how will they pay? They're going to pay severely. Let's listen about the severe payment here. And I will send a fire on Magog, and among them that dwell carelessly in the isles, and they shall know that I am the Lord YAHAWAH power. See, this is what they're paying, and this is they're paying severely. So will I make my holy name known in the midst of my people Israel, and I will not let them pollute my holy name anymore. And the heathen shall know that I am the YAHAWAH power, the Holy One of Israel. Okay, so as you can see, he's pushing the world at this particular point towards his prophetic end. And this soup is so interesting because, when you get this mix of all these nations that are combating and go against each other for the position of who's right, who's wrong, who's on top, who's not, who's allied with who, who's allied with who, who's not allied with who. It's a mess, man. And it may seem a mess to us as from our human perspective, from our perspective of the Most High giving us a metabolistic view. But he's actually performing this awesome miracles in this way, the way he is pulling all this together. And it's just so amazing to see it all come together in the way that it does. I wanted to, what was I going to touch on? I wanted to touch on part of the dry bones that are coming back to wake up and how they're supposed to understand what's going on with this Gog and MaGog situation and what it really is about. And it's about all of the nations of the world and not just 2 or 3 specific nations warring. It's not it at all. But this is what those who have the control of the narratives and the media and the resources spin it in that direction. And it seems as though it's so problematic where we can't come up out of it because either the Most High and the Ruach HaKodesh that he offers through Yahawashi, it's not giving you the knowledge to come out of it, or you just can't grasp or understand some of the meanings of this particular process. Okay, let me go ahead on chapter 37. Just want to touch on the dry bones a little bit. The hand of YAHAWAH power was upon me and carried me out in the spirit of the Lord and set me down in the midst of the valley, which was full of bones, and caused me to pass by them round about. And behold, there were very many in the open valley, and lo, they were very dry. And he said unto me, Son of man, can these bones live? Question. And I answered, O YAHAWAH power, thou knowest. And again he said unto me, Prophesy upon these bones, and say unto them, O ye dry bones, hear the word of Yahawah power. Thus saith Yahawah power unto these bones, Behold, I will cause breath to enter into you, and ye shall live, and I will lay sinews upon you, and will bring up flesh upon you, and cover you with skin, and put breath in you, and ye shall live, and ye shall know that I am Yahawah power. So prophesied as I was commanded, and as I prophesied, there was a noise, and behold, a shaking. And we talked about that shaking in chapter 38, and we were reading about the shaking. And the bones came together, and his bone to his bone, and his bone. And when I beheld, lo, the sinews and the flesh came up upon them, and the skin covered them above, but there was no breath in them. Now, see, that's the part that's kind of problematic and troubling for a lot of us. The dry bones are waking up. They're waking up worldwide. People who were considered to be dead, useless, a people that is labeled and stamped with a byword of no value at all. These are the real dry bones that are awakening, and in the world, the Oikoumenian world sees these Hebrew Israelites waking up. They're not black Hebrew Israelites. They're of all particular persuasions, of different shades of brown. And our Hebrew brother, but not of the chosen seed, he sees this awakening, and this is terrifying to him, because then that means his kingdom has to stop and come down. And as these bones awaken, and they're being brought forth in truth and light through the message of the Akim and Yahushua pushing the knowledge into them through the Ruach HaKodesh, it just terrifies the world. And that's why they go and try to put forth narratives that talk disparagingly about us and towards us, and try to label us in ways that are not us at all. But they don't have a choice, because they won't contend with the scriptures, but so they go after the individuals and the personification of the presentation of those individuals, as opposed to dealing with the message that is at hand. And so having no breath in them also falls in line with consistency of the fact that they're not learning anymore. So when you breathe, you have to take in and breathe out, and take in and breathe out. But if you just take it in and it never comes out, or if you just let it out and you never take breath back in, then the breathing process isn't happening properly. So then what's happening is there's no breath in them, as the Most High said here. Okay, he says, and when I beheld, lo, the sinews and the flesh came upon them, so they became enlightened, and they became empowered with the ability from the Ruach HaKodesh to be bold and be brave enough to get out in the land of their captivity and expound on the truth, which is what they're doing. Okay, and so it came upon it, and the skin covered them. So there's multitudes of them out there. It isn't just a few. It isn't one small group. They're everywhere. And then it says, but there was no breath in them, which means if you're going to be breathing, the consistency of life has to flow. Where's the flow? The flow is what's the next step after you learn what your nationality is? What's the next step after you learn that you know you're supposed to follow the statutes and law, statutes, and commandments? What's the next step when you know that you have to have faith in Yahawashi, or you can't follow any of these laws, statutes, and commandments? What's the next step after you accomplish those things and you get an unction of what your spirit is supposed to be doing by the Ruach HaKodesh and the Holy Spirit directing you to where you go next? Where is the breathing? Where is the breathing process continuing? Why is it not continuing? And that's important, because, obviously those who thought we were ready and we got to that 1619 or that 2019 period of time, and then of course Yahawah did not come and bring us out of this captivity and take us to our land. So clearly, everyone's not called out yet that needs to be called out. And clearly, the message that's being given is not being given in a way where it's being progressive towards a level of repentance that brings us closer to YAHAWAH in the way that we need to in order to be able to get out of this mess. Even though prophetic situations and processes are rolling extremely fast right now. And we can see that through the rest of what's happening to the world, Oinkamini based, and the nations that are around us, so that we can see that. But I'm not going to go too much further, because I know that I'm running deep into an hour, and I know how our people are about trying to listen past a certain point. Okay, so I'm going to have to stop at that point there and just say that we have a big problematic situation going on based on our Achaean brethren who are very repetitive and are very knowledgeable of what they understand and know of the scriptures and the holy Hebrew manuscripts that are given to them at this point. They're well studied, clearly, and then you should be. But the diligence and the breathing process of these dry bones that have now been awakened, the knowledge base is not complete yet. There's more that they have to research and uncover with the same diligency that they research what they know now and done the homework on where they are. And I'm not taking anything away from, and I'm not saying I should, and I'm not disrespecting anything that they've done at this point now. And it is monumental. Trust me, it is great. It is all praises to the Most High YAHAWAH for the respect and the grace and the mercy and the diligency of the Achaeans studying and bringing the truth in the highways and byways at this level now. But in 2nd Ezra chapter 14, 45, 46, the Most High specifically said that there are more books. And when he says books, don't get that twisted to believe that every book that is out there that has information, if it doesn't fit the format that you see in terms of the way that the scriptures are given, that it won't be relative to a knowledge base that would increase your ability to bring a message to get us out of here faster. The YAHAWAH is giving the information to those that are in acceptance of doing the research and to learn and to continue to learn. Yes, you are going to always find the manifold understanding of the Bible and what you have now and things that are going in. I'm not disqualifying. I would never, ever try to say that the information that has been given is not adequate, because of course it's more than adequate. But the point is, when I say more than adequate, I mean at the point of level of knowledge that you know and you have it. Now, what I am saying though is there are going to be more higher levels of knowledge and information that's going to be imparted to those that the Most High chooses to impart them to. Whether you get that blessing or whether you get that charge to do so is completely YAHAWAH's prerogative. It's not mine, it's not anyone else's, it's not any particular camp's prerogative either. And it certainly isn't any prerogative of those who have us in captivity and who will stagnate any knowledge, because they never thought we would be able to read and get any knowledge at all anyway. So you have to continue to do your research. I don't understand why our Achaean brethren will not research more and deeper. They seem to want to fall only on the guise and the auspice of what has been revealed to them by those who have us in captivity, and say, okay, this is what we gave you in Greek, this is what we gave you in Latin, this is what we've given you in archaeological finds, and we can't look any further than just that. That to me is very problematic, and it's very disappointing, and it's disheartening that they would think that their research is only to the extent of the individuals that gave them a belief system that they lied about from the beginning, which isn't our truth in our belief in our following in our culture. They've taken our information and they've sparsed it and cut it up, and they're only giving you certain portions of the pie and telling you this is all that there is. Why would you let a liar teach you the truth? I just don't get it. And so they don't seem to be warriors enough to go continue a research. One of the things about war is a lot of warriors, they go out and they research what they need to do to follow a path to success when it comes to their strategy. And if you don't continue to research your paths to success, then you will fall short. And of course, if you do fall short, you actually you make the path of a success a longer period of time to fruition. And so that's very problematic and difficult. So I pray that our Akim will go and study and do more and understand that there's a lot more than what they have been knowing. And if the Ruach HaKodesh and the Father and Yahawah decides to give it to you, then maybe it'll be there. Pray for it and see if it comes to that level. That's where I'm going to stop for now. And I'm going to say, I hope this message and this lesson was imparted to you in the right manner, and that you accepted it in the grace and mercy of Yahawah B'Shem Yahushai, and Shalom.